Okay, sounds good.
Okay, welcome everybody to the Computer Science Information Session as a part of the Everything Science 2020 Faculty of Science Orientation. Just a couple of housekeeping things, like I say in every session. Um, I see everybody's already doing it, but as you come into the meeting, if you could just, unless you're giving a presentation, obviously, if you could turn off your audio and visual, it helps keep the bandwidth down a little bit and make sure that we can all see and hear everything that needs to be seen from and heard from. And with that, there'll be a chance for questions as we go on. We'll take breaks for that intermittently throughout the presentation. And with that, I'll pass it on over to Kathy Hyde.
Great. Well, thank you, Carter. So welcome to the Computer Science Everything Science session. I'm Kathy Hyde. I'm the Academic Program Manager for Computer Science, and I do the bulk of the undergrad student advising. And I'm joined here today by Steve Anthony. So Steve is one of the lab instructors in computer science, so he'll be talking a little bit later about some of the ways the labs will be run this year, given the pandemic situation. So we're going to give you some information at a pretty high level about the computer science department and the program. And if you guys want to dig deeper, you can just ask questions. We'll pause for questions after every section and then pause again at the end. So if you think of a question later about something we talked about earlier, don't worry, you'll have lots of time at the end to ask questions. So I think it goes without saying that computing is part of everything we do. Most jobs require computing or software use in some capacity. Most of us wouldn't know what to do if we didn't have a network connection of some sort. Computer science offers opportunities for creativity and innovation. There's so many facets to computer science. Most of our graduates begin working right after graduation. And there are so many job opportunities, it's hard to know even where to begin. So we've got graduates that go into careers like software engineers, game developers, cybersecurity experts, web developers, teachers, researchers. There's just all kinds of different options. Here at Memorial, the computer science department has grown significantly in the last 5 years. We now have over 300 majors. We've had to introduce a competitive major admission process because we just have more students interested in doing a computer science major than we can accommodate. So I'll talk a little more about the major admission process in a little bit. We've got 19 faculty members right now, and we're planning to grow that over the next year or so. We've also updated our program options. We've got a couple of new program options over the last couple years, and we have a co-op program. That's not anything new, but I did want to include that there because I know there are a lot of students who are really interested in the co-op program. So I will talk a little more about that as well. So in terms of the different program options, we've got a general major in computer science that can be done as a Bachelor of Science or a Bachelor of Arts degree. Both degrees require the same computer science and math courses. The difference is really in all the other courses that you would take. So if a student's doing a BSc in computer science, in addition to the computer science and math courses, they're going to be required to do a bunch of additional science courses in a variety of different science subjects. And if a student's doing a BA, they're going to be required to do a number of arts courses in a variety of different arts subjects. Normally, a BA also requires students to do a minor. Bachelor of Science degrees don't usually require a student to do a minor, so that's another difference between the two. So that's the general major. We've also got a couple of streams. So we've got a major in computer science smart systems option and a visual computing and gaming option. So both of those degrees are fairly new. They were introduced over the last couple of years. They can only be done as a Bachelor of Science. And the difference really lies in the 3000 and 4000 level computer science courses. So the 1000 level and 2000 level CS courses are exactly the same for all of the majors. But with the general major, students can choose whatever 3000 and 4000 courses they want. There's no restrictions in computer science, that is. And with the streams, it's a lot more restricted. So we require students to do specific third and fourth year courses to fulfill those degree requirements. So we've also got a cooperative internship program. So this offers students an opportunity to get some work experience as part of their degree. It will mean, of course, that it will take longer to complete your degree, but hopefully you'd be in a better position to get a job when you graduate. The co-op program is competitive. Students would normally apply for this after they've completed their second year computer science courses. There's an opportunity to apply for this program. Usually, I think it's 3 times a year. And there's an option for an 8-month, 12-month, and 16-month work term. It's a paid work term, so that's really great as well. We've got some options for joint major programs. So we've got joint programs with the Department of Economics, Geography, Math, Physics, and Statistics. And then students can also do a computer science minor. So if you're interested in finding out exactly which courses are required for each of the different programs, I would encourage you to visit the calendar. There's the link. It's very clearly laid out in the calendar, all the different programs and the courses that are required for each. Does anyone have any questions on the program options with NCS? Not hearing any. Carter, I guess you don't hear any either.
I'm not sure if you can open your chat at the bottom. Well, I guess you have your PowerPoint open, but I'll just spread the questions. So we have one about, in your opinion, how much % do we need to get into CS as it's a competitive program?
Okay, so that's a great question. I knew I'd get that one. Let's just hold on to that one because I'm going to talk about the competitive entry. The very next slide, I think, is the competitive entry.
Okay. All the rest of the questions are pretty much about that. So
okay. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have just put that as the very first thing we talked about. Okay, well, I'll move on. Competitive major admission. So yes, the admission to the computer science major programs is competitive. It used to be, up until a few years ago, if a student wanted to do computer science, they just filled out a form and declared themselves a computer science major. Not so anymore. So now you need to, in order to be eligible for a major, you need to have completed 24 credit hours in certain courses. So I've got them listed here. So you've got to complete Computer Science 1001 and 1002, 6 credit hours in our critical reading and writing, or in critical reading and writing courses rather, including at least 3 credit hours in English. You've got to complete either Math 1000 and 1001 or 1090 and 1000, and then 6 other credit hours that can be in anything. It's not enough to just be eligible. All the eligible applicants are ranked by their cumulative average, and the top students are selected. The number of students we select will vary year to year. We've only been doing this 2 years, and they haven't been 2 regular years because the first year because it was the first year of a competitive major, we had to take a lot more students because we had a lot of students that were pretty far into their program, and we couldn't really, I mean, if a student was going into their 3rd year, and if the first few years they were at MUN, there was no competitive major, we couldn't very well say to those students, sorry, we're not going to accept you now because your average is too low or because you're missing an English course. So the first year we ended up taking a lot more students than we normally would. And then this year is the pandemic. So this year was just totally different as well with the pass-fail option and just lots of different challenges COVID introduced. So in terms of the minimum average required, it's going to vary year to year, and I really wish that I could give a number because I know everyone wants to know what the number is, but I really can't because we just haven't had a regular year. Like, I think if you ask me 5 years from now, I'll be able to give you a pretty good idea. What I can say about it is we expect that a B will always be required, at least a B average. So a B average is anywhere from a 65 to a 79. I can't see it being less than a 65. Would it be as high as a 79? Probably. I mean, it's hard to, probably not. It hasn't been so far, but yeah, I don't know. I really can't give a number. I'm sorry. I know all the students want to know. The last thing I'll mention about the competitive major is that The application deadline is June 1st each year. So students are admitted in June, and then it's a yearly admission. So students are admitted in June, and they begin the majors courses in either the fall or winter, the following fall or winter. There's one more thing I was going to say. Oh, right. Also, a lot of students ask me how you go about applying. So we've got an online application form, and it's not available yet, but it will be available in January. So students can apply for the major using an online form anytime between January and June 1st. So are there any questions about that?
Assuming that a student's taking a full course load each semester, when could they expect to fulfill all of those required courses?
So if you're taking a full course load each semester, and it kind of depends, because when I think of a full course load, I think of 5 courses each semester, but sometimes students talk about being, a full-time student, you can take 3 courses a semester. So what you need is the 24 credit hours completed, and you've got to have the courses there completed. So if you take 4 of those courses in the fall and 4 of those courses in the winter, then you will have the courses that are required. You'll have them completed by June 1st. If you take 3 courses in the fall, 3 courses in the winter, you won't be able to do the 24 credit hours by June 1st. Now, we have some students who start Memorial in the summer, and they take a couple courses in the summer, and then they take 3 in the fall and 3 in the winter. That's fine, as long as you get the 24 credit hours completed by June 1st. So far, and I think this is still the plan for this coming year, we have not accepted any students who finished fulfilling their requirements in the summer. You've got to have all those courses completed before June 1st.
Thank you for answering that one. Computer Science 1001 right now is full. Is there any possibilities that they could find a space?
Yeah, so we've increased the capacity a few times. I haven't heard that we're going to be able to increase it again. That's not to say that we definitely won't be able to, but I don't know that we will be. I'm not sure. What I've been telling students is we usually get quite a few students dropping the course as we get closer to the first day of class and even into the first week. So I'm sure we'll get a bunch of students dropping that course between now and the end of the first week of classes. So keep checking self-service, and as soon as you see a space, just grab it really quick. I mean, we are aware that there are students trying to get into that course, so if there's a way to increase the capacity, then I'm sure we will, but I haven't heard that we're going to do that again. Oh, one more thing I'll say too about that is if you aren't able to get into 1001 in the fall, you can take both 1001 and 1002 in the winter. So you can still be eligible for the major before June 1st, even if you don't get enrolled in 1001 this fall.
Thank you. If I'm not accepted for my second year for the program, can I reapply for the third year?
Definitely, yes. So students who aren't accepted or aren't eligible, yes, they can apply the following year. And I know this is going to be the next question, so I'll just address it now. If students are not accepted into the major, it doesn't necessarily mean that they can't take any more CS courses. So the first year courses are open to anybody. The first 3 2000 level courses are reserved for computer science majors. So 2001, 2002, 2003. So what reserved means is that the majors get the first chance to register. The registration is only open to majors for those courses for the first few weeks. And then there's a point when the reserve will be lifted and other students can register. So if there are spaces in the courses after the reserve is lifted, then even non-majors can register for the 2000 level courses if they've got the prerequisites complete.
Okay, and I will say like questions keep coming in, so if you just want to like move on to another
Sure.
slide after one, whenever.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
We can talk more about this at the end. Okay,
Yeah.
so research opportunities. So there's there are a lot of different research opportunities within computer science. Usually undergrad students who are interested in research do an honors degree. Not always, but typically that's what they do. For anyone who doesn't know, an honors degree, it requires more computer science courses at the 3,000 and 4,000 level, and students are required to maintain a higher average than with the regular major. So these are just a couple of examples of some of the research that our undergrads are doing right now with our faculty members. There's lots more, but we've got some undergrads now working on building machine learning models for human activity detection. So they're looking at things like gait analysis, hand gesture recognition, using wearable sensors. Really interesting stuff. We've also got a team that's working out of our robotics lab. So they are using swarms of robots to organize objects in an environment. And that team has got computer science students on it, as well as engineering students. And there's tons more. We've got students doing research on game development. We've got students and faculty doing research on modeling virus transmission and the pandemic. Once COVID hit, we had some of our researchers working with the School of Medicine to do some modeling of COVID within our community. So lots of really cool, interesting options for research in CS. And if you're interested in learning more about the research opportunities, I suggest that you go onto our website and browse around in the faculty pages, because the faculty, most of them have a lot of info on their websites about the research opportunities within their team. Any questions about that before moving on?
Just one question that I could see about the research. Where can we find information on the pay in a research project?
That's a good question. I think you'd be best to follow up with the researcher and see what options, because I think it's different depending, different faculty members have different grants and that kind of thing. So if there's someone or maybe a couple of our faculty members who their research interests you, then I would follow up with them directly and ask about that.
Okay, and those are the rest of the questions about research. So I'll get to all the other questions at the end.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to pass it over to Steve to talk a little bit about the CS Society that we've got at MUN.
Okay, so my name is Steve Anthony. I believe Kathy mentioned that I'm a lab instructor in the computer science department. So I'm just going to go in a different direction for a moment and talk about the CS Club, or CS Society as we call it. So a lot of students have asked about this in the past, incoming students. So yes, we do have a society, and it's actually quite active over the past few years. It basically follows the same route that the overall program has followed. So as enrollment has increased and the degrees become more popular, the CS Society has become more popular as well. So there's over 350 members currently. I think it's actually closer to 370, but 350 is the number I was given. So there's quite a few people enrolled there. They have accounts on Discord, Facebook, and GitHub. I find the Discord one is much more active than Facebook, and I prefer Discord, so that's the one I use personally. So there's actually subforums in that Discord guild or server for all the first year courses and many of the second year courses. And when I say a subforum, I mean that's a place that's dedicated to answering questions for that particular subject. So there's lots of help available, okay? And students make use of it a lot. I've heard great feedback on it. You know, a lot of students have said that it's really helped them in their program. There's usually someone available to answer questions in most subjects, definitely all the first year, a lot of second year as well. Faculty and staff are sometimes there as well. I'm there occasionally. I know Dave Churchill, one of our instructors, is there as well. And there have been others too. So faculty and staff are sometimes there too. Okay, so could we just go to the next slide there now, Kathy?
Yeah, sorry, I'm having a bit of a trouble here. There we go.
Okay, so I mentioned GitHub. So on the GitHub page, there are there's code examples basically for stuff that's been done over the past few years. So for example, codeathons, programming competitions. The code that was submitted, some of the code that was submitted is there. So there's a lot of code for you if you're interested in programming in particular, which I assume most CS people are. There's a lot of good resources there for you to look into. And getting to know how to use GitHub is particularly important for your second year. So you should look into that in any event. So I guess I should also mention that most people who go into computer science are interested in the technical aspects, as you'd be expected. But there's also actually a social aspect to computer science as well. And the society handles a lot of that. So they, in the past few years, they've had mixers throughout the semester. Now that's probably not going to be true for the next 4 months because of our current situation. But in general, there would be mixers. There's programming competitions every now and then, codeathons, as I mentioned earlier. So there's a good opportunity to interact and be social rather than just concentrate only on the technical aspects. And as I mentioned before, I've gotten a lot of feedback over the years from students that they found this a really useful resource. So it's definitely something you should check into. And there should be a link. I noticed that some people asking about, is there a link?
Oh, sorry. I think they got missed.
Oh, okay.
We can maybe we can send that out after Carter, or maybe
Yeah,
we'll update the presentation and you can have an updated
posted the
version.
link to the Computer Science Society website, and on there has the link to the Discord and the GitHub and all of that.
Okay.
A victim of cut and paste.
Yes, I deleted that because I actually thought it was a mistake I had made. I thought it was a copy-paste mistake, but I guess it was supposed to be there. Was there anything else on that you were going to say, Steve?
I have nothing else to say other than, are there any questions on anything I just spoke about? Obviously, the link is not there, so that's going to can't really say much about that. But are there any other questions on it?
Most of the questions were just on what's the link, and so I've said that.
Yeah. Because once you go there, I mean, it basically tells you all the stuff anyway, right? So at the link, it's pretty straightforward.
And a lot of the other questions are going back to what Kathy was talking about. So, like I said, we can touch on that at the very end.
Okay.
Okay, I'll move on. So first year courses, I thought I'd include something on this because I do get a lot of questions about the difference between the 4 1,000 level courses. I won't talk too much because there's lots of information in the calendar on what these courses are. But so we've got 4 courses. So the first one, 1,000, Computer Science and Introduction. This is a pretty basic, very general computer science course. It is not required for the major. If you take it, it will be used as an elective, as a science elective. It's geared more towards students who just want to take like one CS elective, or students who really aren't sure. They might want to do a computer science degree, but they're really not sure. So it's kind of just like a little taster course. But I mean, it's anyone's welcome to take it, but just want to make it clear, it is not required for the degree and it is not required in order to be eligible for the major. So the next course, 1001, Intro to Programming. This is a course that is required for the major and it is required for admission to the major in order to be eligible. So this is a course where students learn Python, and yeah, like I said, it's a required course. You must take that one. 1002, Intro to Logic. That is also required for the degree, and it is also required in order to be eligible for the major. So it's got to be taken before the June 1st deadline if a student wants to become a major. And then 1003, this course builds on 1001 and 1002, so it goes deeper into the concepts that are taught in those courses. It's not required in order to be eligible for the major, but it is required for the degree. A lot of students seem to think 1003 is also required in order to be admitted to the major, but that's not the case. You can do that one after you're admitted to the major. A lot of students will do that in the fall after they've been admitted to the major. So they do their first year of courses and then their second year in the fall, that's when they do 1003. So this course is a prerequisite for all the 2000 level courses. So it does have to be completed, but it doesn't have to be completed in the first year. And all these courses have labs, so they all have a 3-hour lab associated with them. Are there any questions on those? Probably not. There's like I said, if you want to get a little more information, you can go to the calendar and it's got a little, paragraph about them and all about credit restrictions and all that stuff. So I'll just move on.
Yeah, you answered those questions kind of as you were going through them. It was just as which ones are required before you can register for the major.
Perfect. So yeah, it's just these two, 1001 and 1002 are the only ones that are required in order to be eligible for the major. And, oh yes, right. So another thing important for first year students, the Academic Advising Center has a really great website for all degree programs actually, but for computer science, they've got a suggested course schedule for students for their first year. So for the fall and the winter. So I would encourage students to visit that website because they've got a couple different options there for courses that students can take in their first year.
Really quickly,
yeah.
If a student did not get into Computer Science 1001, what should they do?
So they should keep trying to get in, first of all, in case a space opens, which I expect there will be spaces opening. If they do end up not getting in 1001 this semester, they should take 1001 and 1002 in the winter. They can take those two courses together, and then they'll be eligible for the major.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So we have a help center. So the Computer Science Help Center and all of our course labs are going to be virtual this fall. The jury is still out about the winter. MUN hasn't put out a formal statement about whether or not the winter semester will be remote. So for now, we'll just talk about, I guess, how the fall is going to run remotely. So I'll hand it over to Steve again to talk about the virtual help center and the virtual labs.
Okay, back to me again. So I'm going to, as Kathy just said, I'm going to talk about the help center and the labs. First, I'll talk about how it's going to be done virtually, so for the next semester at least. And then I'll talk about how it's done normally, because we may be back in the winter, in which case the normal approach will apply. Okay, so for the help center, it will be staffed by the lab instructor, me, some instructional assistants, and MUSEP students that we hire. So for this semester at least, when it's been done virtually, we're only going to support the courses that are listed here. So 1000, 1001, 2, and 3, 1600, and 2001, 2, and 3. Okay. We need to restrict it just because of the logistics. And these are all the lab-based courses that typically generate the most questions anyway. So that's the ones we're going to support in the help center. So in terms of how the help center will be presented to you. So there's actually going to be a help center shell in Brightspace, so it'll look like another course basically. So when you go into Brightspace to see all the courses you're registered in, you should see a help center shell as well, and you can go in there and post questions. Any student that's enrolled in any of the above courses that I just mentioned, they're automatically going to be registered for this help center course as well. Okay, so this should be finalized by next week, by the first day of class. If you find that you have registered in one of those courses, but you can't find the help center, you should contact me or contact someone. We'll get it worked out. For now, it's supposed to be automatic. As soon as you're registered in one of those, you automatically register in the help center as well. That's the plan. Whether it'll work, I guess we'll see. So the format, okay. So there'll be discussion forums for each of those courses, where students will post questions and then they'll be answered on first come, first served basis. So try to make it as fair as possible. So starting out, it's just going to be text-based, I guess, just like before. You're just going to type in questions, and someone will type back answers. If you require more help, like if you want to go to video or something like that, we'll probably have breakout rooms where we can talk to you individually. Or if you have code that you need some help with, there'll be a way for you to upload the code, and we can look at it and give some responses. So all that information will be present in the link. That I think the link was just up there on the screen. Yeah. So to the starting page, essentially. We haven't quite finished everything yet. In particular, if you go to that link right now, the schedule is pretty empty. There's only one person there. But rest assured, by the first or second week of the semester, we hope to have the help center staffed for at least 20 hours a week, 20 to 25, and maybe more. I don't know. It's just going to depend on the MUSEP students we get. Right now, there's only 2 hours allocated, but 20 plus is guaranteed. That's going to happen. Okay, so that's the virtual version of the help center. So the on-campus version, which we hope to get back to at some point in time. So the idea is it works in a very similar fashion in that the courses that are covered in the help center will be the same, but it will be amended slightly for whatever's being offered in that semester. So for example, in the winter semester, we typically offer 1510 and sometimes 2510. So if those courses are being offered, of course, we will offer help for them. Okay, so in general, all the courses I just mentioned, those will be there, but then some extra ones depending on what we're doing during the semester. So I guess the one major difference would be when we're doing it on campus, we actually have a room that you come to. Okay, so it wouldn't be virtual. There's actually a room, EN 2031C in the engineering building. And the idea is pretty much the same. You come to the room and you wait in line, and ask your questions and we'll answer them. Now, in fact, I don't know if this is going to happen by the time we get back, but we're actually supposed to be moving to a new room, a new help center. I can't tell you that number yet because I don't know if the room is going to be available. Information will be updated as we receive it. So on the on-campus version, where we go to the help center room, in some ways it's better because we can offer more resources. There's going to be several computers there. I mean, there's tables and chairs. You can come and sit down and work on a problem and discuss it. There's textbooks available in case you don't have a textbook. There's different study aids, and there's various other features that make the on-campus version probably a bit better, in my opinion. So, are there any questions on that? Will I talk about it all and ask questions at the end, or will we break it out based on the help center?
I'm not seeing any questions on the help center, but just one question that's come up a couple of times. If a student has registered for Comp Sci 1001 or 1002 and it hasn't appeared on their Brightspace courses, either one of you can feel free to jump in on that. But I will say that a lot of times courses will not show up until, unfortunately, the first day of school, which is the 9th of September.
So the help center shell is not showing up for them. Is that what they're saying?
I think they're like actual courses, so like computer science 1001 and 1002.
Okay, so if that's on the registrar side, basically. Mm-hmm. We don't have any control over that, but it isn't always instantaneous. So I mean, you could register for a course and it could take 2 or 3 days for it to show up. It's definitely asynchronous. It's not done in real time, it seems. And the help center shell is probably the same way. You may register for one of those courses and not see the help center one until a couple of days later. We're hoping to have all these issues taken care of by next week. Because technically the semester hasn't started yet, so there's still some time for those things to happen.
Yeah, that appears to be all of the questions about the help center.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed someone asked about a link. The link was there in the previous slide, I believe. Or did we forget? No, we didn't forget that one too. Okay.
Yeah. Got that one.
Okay, good.
Labs.
Okay. So again, I'll start with explaining how it was going to work virtually, and then I'll move on to how it's going to work when we get back on campus. So typically labs will be held during the scheduled registration time. So basically for a lab-based course, when you register for the course, there's an associated lab. Again, they're tied together. Typically you can't break the association. So whenever that lab time is, that's when the lab will be held. Now, the content of the lab, well, I'll get to that in a minute. But in terms of the actual times, it's going to be according to whatever the registration, whatever the registrar's office assigned to that course. So 3 hours is typical for most courses we do, 3-hour labs. So at minimum, the lab instructor would be there, so that'd be me, or an IA, or I should say and/or, because typically there's more than one of us. Sometimes the course instructor is there, sometimes not, depends on the course. And depending on the numbers enrolled, we could have extra student assistance as well. There's always sufficient help there, I think. Now, as for the lab content, this is where I can talk about some of the options you might see, but I can't say for any particular course because, I mean, it's going to vary. All I can say for sure, no, actually, no, I can't even say that for sure. I can say one thing for sure. It's going to be in the 3-hour block that the registrar's office assigns. What's going to be done during those labs could vary. So some labs could be shorter than 3 hours. So at least 1 or 2 instructors I've spoken to were considering the idea of splitting the lab in half. So half the class would be in the first hour and a half, and the second half would be in the second hour and a half. I don't know if they decided to do that or not, but that's an option. So the labs might be a bit shorter. They'll still be within that 3-hour block, but they may be a bit shorter. Some labs may have a short lab quiz during the lab, typically at the end. But others may have a 24-hour window in which you could do the lab. Okay, so the lab may start, say, at 2 to 5 on one day, and then you have until 2 o'clock on the next day to complete the quiz. So it really comes down to being the difference between synchronous versus asynchronous learning. So if the instructor is doing things synchronously, the 3 hours in the lab will be when you have to do all your work. You have to be there during that time and do it all. If it's asynchronous, well, they may give you the option to complete the work on your own, whenever you like, basically, within that 24-hour period. Now, as for the type of instruction during the lab, again, I can't be precise, that can vary. So some labs will consist of the instructor and the IA just doing Q&A, so we'll give you a list of exercises, you work through them. If you encounter issues and you have questions, you ask, we answer. So standard, straightforward stuff. Others may involve a demo, so one of the instructors might give a problem and walk you through the solution, perhaps asking for feedback as they, do something line by line, perhaps. And it'll be more interactive. And again, this comes down to, is the lab going to be synchronous or asynchronous? So the synchronous one can involve demos. The asynchronous one probably wouldn't, because it wouldn't be in real time necessarily. So the question you may be asking is, what's my lab going to be like? So for whatever lab course you're doing, what's it going to be like? I can't tell you that. So you need to go and check the course outline for the course that you're concerned with. And it could be it could involve any of those things I just mentioned, any of those variations, or it could be something I didn't mention at all. The current situation we're in, we're trying to find the best possible way to present the information. Some courses are better suited to virtual presentation than others, to be honest. And yeah, we're just trying to find the best approach for each one. But definitely check your course outline to see what's expected of you for each lab. Because if you're doing 2 lab courses, there's no guarantee whatsoever that they're going to work exactly the same. You could be doing 2 different lab courses in one semester and they work completely differently. That's just the nature of where we are at this point in time.
And when you refer to the course outline, Steve, you're talking about the outline that the instructor will give out the first day of class. Yeah.
Yeah. Which should be definitely the first day of class. Yeah. Okay. Or at least I think it needs to happen in the first week by regulations. Okay. The first day of class is usually when you get it, definitely. So I'll just talk about the on-campus version, and then we'll come back to the questions, because I see there's a few questions about this. So let me just finish this slide, and then we'll come back. Okay, so during the normal semester, which we hope to get back to at some point soon, labs are typically much more regimented. And when I say regimented, I mean it's more set, So a moment ago, I talked about labs. I said there's all these different options. You could be doing this, you could be doing that. I mean, we don't know. When we get back to on-campus labs, it's much clearer, okay? We have a much more strict procedure to follow. So the labs are typically 3 hours long, and there's a 30-minute quiz at the end, which will cover the material for the previous 2.5 hours, basically. The labs will be on campus, obviously. So we have 2 computer labs for that, CS 1019 and CS 1009. 2 of those combined can hold 90 students. So basically, each lab section can be at most 90 students. So that's where if you see the numbers and you see there's 90, or 180 for enrollment, that's what those numbers actually come from. It comes from our our ability to put you into a room. 90 people is all we can hold at a time. So for the most part, lab content, so any content, exercises, demos, quizzes, whatever, will be electronic, online/electronic through Brightspace. So the exercises will be given as some sort of document, a web page, a PDF, whatever, it depends. The quizzes will typically be online as well. So they could be multiple choice, they could be auto-graded, or some questions may be manually marked, programming related. I mean, it depends on the course. I can't be specific here because this is a general type explanation. It's going to depend on the course. So what will stay the same though is, again, there'll either be a lab instructor and or an IA, and sometimes the course instructor will be there. And again, same thing, the same amount of help will be available. So let me give you an example. So if we had a course where there's 90 students, the section has 90 students, so both rooms would be occupied at the same time. So we'd probably have 4 or 5 people staff in that. So three people for the large room, just CS 1019, and then 2 people for the smaller room. So yeah, 5 people for 90 students. That's roughly the breakdown. And if we see, of course, that there's really a lot of confusion, there's a lot more questions, so we can possibly modify that. But that's basically the standard. Okay, so I guess there's many questions that weren't answered before, so I guess I'll answer the lab questions first, and then we can go back and talk about any of the other questions that weren't covered. So, where does it start? Let's see. Just bear with me for a second.
The main one that came up with the labs was different time zones.
Okay, that's the big question mark. If the labs are synchronous, which some instructors are doing, so I'm told, and that time happens to be when you're in another part of the world and you're actually asleep, then I don't know. I think the instructor is probably going to have to make a special allowance in your case. That's something that you're going to have to take up with the instructor. Okay. If the labs are asynchronous, which I think was what most instructors are doing, then that's not an issue, because that's where the 24-hour time period comes from. So you'll have, at some point, you'll be, it'll be in a time that's hopefully convenient for you to do the work and do the quiz. But again, as for what course is going to do what, you need to speak to each instructor. You need to look at the course overall. Okay. What else? What else was there? So different time zones. So what was the next? What was the next question?
There's one after that that I think somebody might have misunderstood. They said lab courses are on campus, but we are in our home country. How can we attend it?
No. Yeah, I probably didn't make this clear. What I just presented, the first part of it was when we do lab courses virtually, which is where we are now. I mean, that's our current situation. And then the second part of it was how labs work when we get back on campus. Okay. Well, I'm putting that information out there now because technically this video is going to be available for a full year, but we may be back on campus in the winter. Right. So I wanted the information for both versions to be there. So yeah, obviously when we're doing stuff virtually, you won't need to be on campus. So basically that half of the information you ignore until the winter semester or later. So it's only the virtual stuff applies to us at the moment.
I think that was all of them about the labs that I could gather. Just a couple ones that I made a note of. So for the computer science, computer engineering, and software engineering majors, which one is less competitive? I'm sure it varies year to year.
So computer science, computer engineering, and software engineering, were they the 3 you just mentioned? Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
So computer engineering is totally separate. That's the engineering department. It's an engineering degree. You'd have to follow up with engineering. I don't really know have no idea, honestly, how competitive their programs are, but you could ask them about that. So the computer science software engineering option, that's an honors program. So the way it works is the first step is to get admitted into the computer science major. Once you're into the computer science major, you take all the second year 2000 level courses, and then you can apply for an honors program. So whether you want to do the regular computer science honors or you want to do the software engineering honors, it doesn't matter. It's whichever you want. But yeah, after your second year is completed, then you would apply to the head's office to be accepted into honors. We don't have a ton of honors students, so normally the head will evaluate each student, and if you're average, if you're meeting the minimum required average and the other criteria for honors, then normally you would be accepted, and then it would be your choice whether it was the software engineering or the regular honors. So it's kind of like a different competition. It's not like it comes after you get accepted into the CS major.
And I know you mentioned it a bit earlier, but could you talk a little bit more about the co-op programs for comp sci?
Sure, yeah. So I'm always a little nervous when I talk about the co-op program because I don't want to say too much about it in case I get it wrong, because the co-op office, so I will say they do every semester, even with the pandemic, they've been doing it virtually. They have a really great info session. And someone from the co-op office, it's open to any CS students. Someone from the co-op office will tell you everything about the co-op program, and then there's lots of time after for questions. So I would definitely encourage you to attend one of those. But yeah, I mean, I talked about there's 3 different options for the work term. There's 3 different times of the year that you can apply. So every semester, normally, there's competition for application. So you must have completed all of your 2000 level CS courses and 2 of your 3000 level courses before you begin your work term. Not before you apply. You would apply the semester before you begin the work term. So, but you need to be pretty far along before you are eligible. They look at average. I mean, you've got to have at least a B average in your CS courses. But again, like the CS major, it depends on the applicant pool. So, if it's a semester that not as many students are applying, then perhaps it would be easier to get in. I know they get a lot of students who want to start their work term in the summer. So I believe that might be a little harder to get in that time frame, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know if there's any other questions. It's a paid work term. It can be within Newfoundland. It can be other areas of Canada or even worldwide. The co-op office, so the co-op office works as a liaison between the students and a number of different companies. So from what I understand, it's almost kind of like a job board. Like they know about a lot of different jobs and they've got those posted, and then the co-op students can apply. But students are also able to find a job on their own and use that, but it has to meet the co-op office criteria for a work term. I don't know if there's any other specific questions.
I think that covers a lot of them.
Okay.
And I'm sure like the co-op office has posted their requirements.
Yes, that's right. Yep. Yeah.
I know we're jumping all over the place.
I'm planning to,
Sorry.
Yeah, I'll say one thing. So I'm playing around with it now, but I'm hoping to maybe get a Brightspace shell set up sometime this semester for some of the computer science info, because I get a lot of the same questions, and I think it would be nice if there was one place for students to go. So hopefully later in the fall, maybe that will be set up, and then you'd be able to get information there about co-op program and about the majors and about degree schedules and all that stuff. So stay tuned.
That's something to look forward to. Do you know off the top of your head the courses that are offered in spring and summer?
No, that hasn't been decided yet. I can tell you that majors courses at the 2000 level or above, CS courses are almost never offered. So I mean, it's possible this semester or this summer they will be, but I would not plan on it or count on it. That would be very surprising. A lot of students are asking about 1003. 1003 was a brand new course this past winter, the first time it was ever offered. We did offer it this past summer. I don't know if it'll be offered next summer or not. If you check in later in the fall semester, perhaps I'll know, but I'm not sure. It may be winter before it's decided. But right now, there's nothing known.
I just wanted to add that 2510 is normally offered in the summer, or at least it has been for the past few years. But it's not a core course, right? I mean, you can use it as an elective, but it's not part of one of the courses you need for the degree. So it's an interesting course. I mean, it's a good elective to have. In the past, I think 1001, for the past few years, at least 1000 and 1001 have been offered in the summer. But like Kathy said, there's really no guarantees. We're not going to know for sure. We're just going by the past few years. So
Yep.
1001 is probably fairly, well, I don't like saying it's going to definitely be offered, because if you plan your degree around it and it isn't offered, then that's going to cause an issue. But all I can say is over the past few years, 1001 has been offered. That's as far as I can go with that.
One more thing I'll say about 1003. Quite a few students have talked to me, and they've been really stressed out about, what if they don't get 1003 done this year? They don't want to take it the first fall of their second year. They feel like they're going to be behind in their degree, but that's not the case. It is completely fine to do 1001 this fall, 1002 in the winter, get admitted to the major, do 1003 next fall, and then begin the 2000 level courses in the winter. You will not be behind on your degree. That's not a problem at all. So don't stress too much about, if 1003 is not offered this summer, it's totally fine to do 1003 in the fall.
And then quickly, I'm sure you might have mentioned it. What program language is used in 1001? Did you say it was Python?
Python, yeah.
Okay.
Python 3 in particular.
That's as much computer science knowledge as I have personally.
I could throw in a few extra things there to try to answer a few questions at once.
Yeah, sure.
A lot of our program is Python based. 1001, 1003 use Python. 2001 uses Java. 2002 uses Python for the most part. So I would say at this point in time, Python and Java are what are used throughout the program. C++ pops up every now and then, but not in required courses. Okay. So
do you need any existing Python knowledge going into that course?
No. The intent is for, well, as the regulations, as the prereqs specify, right? Just high school math, basically. So, yeah. I mean, obviously it helps if you have it, but it's not required. Yep.
I see somebody asking if they can work as a systems engineer with a computer science degree.
Yeah, I mean, well, a systems engineer, I thought it was software engineer. I don't know. I don't want to answer that. Probably. I don't know. Steve, do you have thoughts? I mean, probably. I don't know. Is that something you need an engineering degree for?
We can't really answer that because we don't know what that job entails.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could say systems engineer. There's a lot of aspects of systems engineer that, could be programming related, could not be programming related. So, I mean, without seeing the list of duties that job entails, we can't really say whether a CS degree would help. It definitely wouldn't hurt. I can say that. But whether you'd be qualified for it, again, depends on what each job would be looking for. That's a very general question, so we can't give you a specific answer. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Definitely software engineer. You could have a CS degree and go into that career.
Well, that's more directly related to CS, so that one we probably can't answer. The systems engineer is not quite as clear.
Again, the basic difference between computer science and computer engineering, that's something to take up with engineering and another faculty.
Yeah, there are. Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
Yep. Okay. I just want to take a second. I noticed one of the questions here know that computer engineering seems to be more hardware based, and computer science is more software based. Now, I don't know if that's still true because I believe engineering is revamping their program as well. But in the past, at least based on what I've heard from students, that has been true. I've known students that went into computer engineering and only 2 or 3 programming courses over the entire degree. Okay, versus our program, which would be almost all software development programming of some kind. So that was definitely true in the past. Going forward, well, I don't know. I don't know anything else about the department, but yeah. So whoever made that comment, that was definitely true, and it may still be true that computer engineering is more hardware based rather than software based. That would be my opinion. Yep.
And all I was going to say was that there are some courses in the computer engineering program that you can substitute. Like, I don't know if they're credit restricted. I was going to say that I'm not sure if they're credit restricted, but we will so we get some of the students who are doing computer engineering coming over to computer science, and there's a handful of courses that we will take as a substitute, but the majority we won't. So while there's some overlap, I think mostly it's quite different. But yeah, like we said before, I mean, you'd want to talk to the engineering department too, or maybe the calendar. I mean, take a really good look at the calendar. I see some questions here about asking about the streams and you know, how is the software engineering degree different than the regular degree? So the first step is to really, and I know students hate the calendar, and I know it's kind of hard to read sometimes, but that part of the calendar is really well laid out. So if you just look at all the different programs, all the courses required are listed there, and just click on each of them and see what they all are. And that will give you an idea of the differences between the different programs.
Yeah, I will kind of reiterate that point that as much as it can be hard to read the calendar, sometimes it will answer a lot of questions that you may have. Can you talk a little bit about game development at MUN? What do you guys teach in game development?
So again, I would take a look at where I would start with that question is I would probably, I'm just looking it up here as I'm talking. I would go to the visual computing and games stream section of the calendar, and I would just look at all the 3,000 and 4,000 level courses that are listed there that are required. And those are the ones that are most related to gaming. So yeah, that's where I would start. And then if you have specific questions, then you can follow up with me or follow up with one of our faculty members, if that makes sense. If it's, you know, if it's something that they're specifically working on that you're interested in, or if they're teaching a course that you're interested in.
And I have it written down here, but I'm pretty sure you already touched on it, all about the honors programs.
Yep. So you've got to complete, you have to have completed all of the first and second year CS courses before applying for honors. And then, yeah, you would apply to the head's office, and the head will review your application and determine if you can be admitted. So normally what the head is mainly looking for, from what I understand, is to see if you're meeting the honors criteria. So there's a bunch of, and that's not even a CS thing. To get an honors in science, you've got to have a particular average in your majors course. You're only allowed to have repeated 3 courses maximum to obtain that average. So the head will be looking to make sure that you're meeting those requirements, and your GPA has to be, there's a minimum GPA requirement, that kind of thing.
Could somebody start their research program in computer science before declaring the major? I assume that means like start their honors before their major?
No, you can't. The first step is to declare the major. You can do research without being an honors student, though. So if you're admitted into the major, then we do have undergraduate students that are working with faculty members, and they're not doing the honors program yet. I don't know if we have students in their first year working with faculty members, not that I know of. But if you look at the website and if you look at the faculty member's profile, if there's someone you're really interested in working with, it's worthwhile to reach out to them. All the faculty are open to, students reaching out to them about their research. So they will let you know if there's an opportunity, or if it's a little too early, they'll say, check back next year. That's where I would start with that.
If some second-year courses require Java, what courses should we take in order to learn Java if they don't already have that knowledge?
Okay, so yep, I'll take that one, I guess. So at the moment, there is no course that we offer that's an introduction to Java. Okay, so 2001 is meant to be structured so that's the first time you're going to see Java. Okay, so the intent is for you to learn the language as part of that course. I mean, obviously, if there's resources you want to follow on the outside, like I don't know, getting a textbook or something beforehand and reading through it, that's up to yourself. I mean, that may be a help. But the intent is for you not to have an introductory Java course. That is the introductory Java course, I guess. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, I think that does.
It's probably going to be a bit of a difficulty in the first number of weeks of that course because you're going to be used to Python probably, and Java is going to be a new language. But that's all part of the learning process. But in terms of is there a course that comes before to prepare you for it? No, essentially that is the introductory course. Yep.
If I wanted to do a joint degree in comp sci and PHY, I'm not sure exactly. My brain could think of a couple things that could mean. So joint degree in computer science and PHY. Yeah, sorry.
It's probably physics, isn't it?
Yeah. Will I also be considered as a mathematics minor because of the mathematics courses involved?
So to do a math minor, and that's probably something I should have mentioned just separately. If you are considering a minor, we have a lot of our majors that do a math minor because we require you to do so many math courses anyway. The physics CS joint major, I'm just looking at it here now. It doesn't look to me like you would satisfy the math minor requirements after completing that degree. So I know for a math minor, you've got to do 8 math courses. I think only 2 can be at the 1000 level, and at least 2 have to be at the 3000 level. Don't quote me on that, check the calendar, but I think it's something like that. And it looks to me when I look up the joint major, I'm only seeing 6, sorry, I'm only seeing 6 courses. Yeah, so I don't think you'd automatically get a math minor if you did that degree, no.
And like a math minor, students who have not completed computer science 1003 in their first year will not be able to register for computer science 2001, 2, or 3 in the fall of their second year. This was mentioned in the website. Should I take 1003 in the first year then?
You can. So we have 2 different ways that students do it. So we've got students who take 1001, 1002, and 1003 in their first year. And then they start up in the 2000 level courses the following fall, and that's perfectly fine. It's a heavy course load because all of those courses have a 3-hour lab. And I mean, with the CS math requirements, you're going to be doing, a lot of students find math difficult, so you're going to be doing math along with that. A lot of students want to do some science electives their first year, so often they're taking science courses too that also have 3-hour labs. So it's a heavy schedule, but we do get a lot of students that choose to do it that way. But it is also perfectly fine to take just 1001 and 1002 in your first year, and then take 1003 in the following fall. What I always say to students, and what I will say to you now, it's really important, is I find students want to get everything done as quickly as they can, which is not a bad thing. But one thing you need to consider is you really want to get admitted to the major. So don't overload yourself and get low marks. I get students who come to me and they're really worried about getting accepted into the major, and they're telling me about how heavy their course load is, and they've got a much lower average than they thought they would have. And it's very upsetting to them and stressful for them to not get accepted into the major because their average was too low. And then they look back and they feel like if they hadn't have taken so many difficult courses, their average would have been higher and they would have gotten accepted. So if you think you can handle it and that's what you want to do, then great. But don't feel pressure. You can leave 1003 till your second year if you think you will do better overall by doing things that way. That's perfectly fine.
I think that answers that question really well. if a student does the honors program, do they have to do some sort of research or project along with that?
Yes, so the honors program requires research. So in computer science, there's it's a 1 semester research project. It's a course you register for, but it's it's working with a faculty member who's like a supervisor. It's almost like a baby thesis, like a mini, like an honor. Well, it's an honors thesis, I guess. Some other science departments you do it over 2 semesters. So with computer science, it's shorter, but it is still a research project that's absolutely got to be completed as part of honors.
What would differ if I have a minor and not?
What if you have a minor and if you don't have a minor, what's the difference?
Yeah.
It really just depends on what you want to do. I mean, you know, if you're interested in something, a lot of students do a minor because they're really interested in something. So maybe they're interested in French or chemistry or, whatever. That's great. It might give you a leg up in a job, depending on what your minor is. I mean, some of our students do a business minor or economics minor or, anything. It's possible that depending on the job you're interested in after you graduate, you could get a leg up if you have a minor. You've got to do the courses anyway. You've got to do electives anyway. So I guess it just kind of looks better on a resume and, on your academic record, but it's fine to not do a minor too. It's just really preference.
Are there any time conflicts when taking 1002 and 1003 concurrently?
I'm not sure, not that I know of. No one's mentioned that to me, but I haven't actually looked at the time that they're offered. But I haven't had a student come to me and say it's an issue, so it likely isn't. Just logging in now to take a quick look.
Yeah. It's probably a lot to keep in mind at any one time.
Yeah, if a student hasn't told me that it's an issue, then I'm thinking it probably isn't.
Right.
I think we try to schedule those courses so that they don't overlap.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not prereqs, right? You can take them concurrently. So.
Yeah, and a lot of students do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's a time conflict there. No.
Actually, notice the next part of the question says by conflicts, I mean content conflicts.
Content, yeah, I just picked up on that.
Okay, so yeah, I can answer that part. So no, there's no content conflict here. If there were, then one would be a prereq of the other. The fact that they're can be done at the same time means that one doesn't depend on the other. So 1002 is basically computer logic, discrete math. 1003 is, well, not that. It's that's the specifics you can get at the moment. But it's, yeah, you can do both at the same time, and many students do. So, yep.
I apologize for that. My eyes jumped the screen there. Can the economics computer science joint major do an honors program?
We don't have an honors program for that. I don't think. Actually, hold on now. Maybe I don't. I haven't actually met a student that's doing that program, so I I don't actually know that much about it. I don't see an honors option there. No. So if someone is interested in doing a computer science and economics honors, then I think they should come maybe between a CS and the economics department. I don't know if we could maybe work something out, but we don't have a defined program for that. So again, it's a decision to be made later in your degree. It would be after your first couple years are completed. But yeah, if you're interested in doing that after you've done your first few years and you're doing the joint major, then come see me or come see economics, and we'll see if we can maybe make something work. I don't know if there would be room for that or not, but perhaps.
And on the subject of the majors requirements, is it necessary to complete 2 CRW English courses in the first year?
So you've got to complete 6 credit hours in CRW and at least 3 have to be in English. So normally that translates to 2 courses and 1 course has to be English. so you don't have to do 2 English. There's lots of other options for CRWs. Most of them are arts courses. There's, philosophy, history, German, all kinds of different options. So if you wanted to do 1 English and one of the other CRWs, that's fine. But yeah, you need 2 CRW courses.
Isn't it after your first year that you apply for competitive entry into comp sci major? And from what somebody said, comp sci 1003 must be completed before you're able to register for comp sci 2001, 2, 3 in the fall of your second year.
Yeah, so okay, so the major deadline, the application deadline is June 1st each year. We have some students who apply after doing 2 years at university or even 3, but most students come into their first year, they do the 8 or more courses that are required. I say, well, it's 8 required. Sometimes they do more than 8. They apply in June, or they apply before June 1st, and then in their second year, they start the majors courses. Sorry, I'm lost track of the question. So you don't have to do 1003 before applying for the major. You do have to do it before you take 2001, 2002, and 2003. But you don't have to take those 3 courses in the fall of your second year. So you can get accepted into the major in June, and then in the fall of your second year, you can do Computer Science 1003, plus a couple math courses, plus some electives, and then in the winter of your second year, take 2001, 2, and 3. And you'll still be able to complete your degree within 4 years if you do it that way. I'm planning to post in the next couple months online a couple of sample degree schedules. So you'd see a picture basically of year by year, some of the course options. So that might help sort of visualize. But yeah, there's 2 ways to do it. You can do 1003 in your first year, or you can wait until your second year. Either is fine.
Okay, and we'll just go for a few more minutes here because
I just wanted to add one thing to that before you go on. This is not a guarantee, but it's also possible that 1003 will be offered in the summer again.
That's right.
In which case, that'll give you a bit more leeway. If it's offered. We can't say for sure whether it will be or not, but it very well might be.
And CS is very aware that a lot of students want to start the 2000 level courses in the fall. So, and they know that 1003 in the summer would be helpful to that. There's a lot of things to balance when it comes to offering the course in the summer. This year is just, totally different because of the pandemic. So we'll see where that is. We're also still down on a few faculty members. Like I mentioned, we're looking to hire some more faculty this year. So that may allow us to offer more courses. So yeah, there's a lot of things. And that's why we don't know right now. I know some departments post, they've posted now what they're going to offer next summer, but computer science just can't be sure yet what the options are. We've got some retirements coming up and that kind of thing. So.
Sorry, if somebody gets a transfer credit from high school for Math 1000 and 1001, and they decide not to take those courses in the first year, will they be able to declare for the major?
As long as you've got a transfer credit. I've never heard of 1001 transfer credit from high school, but that may be possible. So yeah, as long as your memorial academic record shows that you've got transfer credit for it, then to us, we consider it completed. Doesn't matter to us if you took it here or not, as long as you got the credit.
Yeah, if you've got a transfer credit, you don't need to take that course again. You've got that credit, you're good.
That's right.
How will we get honors in computer science? I know you mentioned that a few times now, so I'll just reiterate that this is going to be posted in the Brightspace shell that you guys can walk through later if you've missed any questions. If it's not it's not necessary to register comp sci 2001, 2, 3 in the fall of your second year, how many semesters are there? How many semesters make a year? So there's
Right. Yeah. So normally, a computer science degree is 120 credit hours. It it can be done in 4 years if students take 30 credit hours each year, which is normally 10 courses. Not always though, because computer science has 3 courses that are 1 credit hour each. But yeah, so if a student, so most, well, I don't know about most, but many students will take 5 courses in the fall, 5 courses in the winter, take the summer off. And if you do that for 4 years, then you can finish your degree. There's lots of different options. So if a student might take 4 courses in the fall, 4 courses in the winter, and 2 in the summer, if they do that for 4 years, then they can finish their degree as well. We also have a lot of students that don't take 10 courses a year. They take 8. We have a lot of students that do 4 in the fall, 4 in the winter, and they complete their degree over 5 years. So it is kind of tricky when you're talking about first year, second year, and the number of years. I know the point that I think I know the point that the student's making, but I guess it's best to think of credit hours and as like for admission to the major, it doesn't matter if you've taken the courses in the fall and in the winter, as long as you've got them completed before June 1st. I don't know if that helps.
I think so.
Okay.
Can it be done in less than 4? I believe. Oh yeah, that helps. Thanks.
Can it be done in less than 4? Probably, but not easily, because we don't offer the CS courses in the summer. So, I mean, if a student was taking was planning to take full course load fall and winter and then take summer courses as well, it's possible that maybe you could get a little bit ahead, but I'm not really sure. We'd kind of have to map that out and think about it, because I don't know. You still might end up having to stick around for a semester or 2 to, or 1 extra semester maybe, to finish like 1 course or 2 courses that you weren't able to do over the summer. So I don't know. I think you need to map out your course schedule each semester, each year, and see. I haven't had a student that completed the degree in less than 4 years.
And just the last couple of questions. Can I have a job in the cybersecurity field with a CS honors?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, cybersecurity field. Yep. Well, the only thing, so I think there was another question too. Can I study cybersecurity in the CS department? So we don't actually offer a whole lot in the way of cybersecurity. Last year we had a 4,000 level cybersecurity course offered, which was really great. I got really good feedback from students on that one. But that was the first time that was offered, and not to say it won't be offered in the future, it may be, but it's not planned at this point anyway to be a regular offering. So security is touched on in a couple of our courses, but we don't really have specific security courses usually. But with a CS degree, you can definitely graduate and get into the field of cybersecurity. And I know several people who have cybersecurity careers, and they tend to learn a lot on their own anyway. I find the security-minded people are just always, reading on their own, and I guess just evolving their knowledge on their own. So yeah, definitely you could get a job in that field with a CS degree.
And I put a thing in the chat. Somebody sent me a message privately. There's been a few questions that have already been answered. And so if I skip over those, it's because they've already been in the recording. And so you can watch back later. It'll be uploaded later today, probably. Sometimes it takes a while with WebEx recordings, but
I see someone's talking about a cybersecurity master's. We don't have a cybersecurity master's option, but I mean, if they're talking about going somewhere else, it would depend on the school that they're planning to apply to. So they would need to check wherever they're looking to apply to make sure a CS degree is sufficient for application for that master's program. But, it probably would be, but I'm not sure. It would depend.
And then the last question that I'm seeing here just says, I've heard CS at MUN isn't accredited. Is that so? In what way is that bad? I haven't heard that. I'm not in the CS department, but I wouldn't be as concerned about that.
Yeah, so our program is not accredited, but I don't know that much, to be honest. I don't know, Steve, if you do, but I don't know that much about accredited computer science programs. I don't,
Uh, no, I don't have any information on that myself.
yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of schools that the computer science programs are not accredited, but certainly our graduates, they certainly are able to start working after they graduate and stuff. I mean, there may be certain positions or possibly certain graduate programs that may require an accredited computer science degree. I don't really know. I don't really know much about that. I'm not sure.
Well, it doesn't seem to hurt the job, the rates for getting a job. So it's high 90s the last I looked. In terms
Yeah,
of the job placement rates, 96% plus. Now I don't know how accurate my information is, but that's what it was the last time I looked. It's quite high. So
yeah, and I haven't had any students come back and say that they were held back because it wasn't an accredited program. Now, I mean, I've only been in the department a couple of years, but yeah, so I'm not really sure. I don't think that would be a problem.
Yeah, from all of the alumni that I've spoken to over the last few weeks, I haven't heard a single issue from that. I think that's all of the questions. So with that, I think we're good. Does CS have job opportunity in Newfoundland? Absolutely.
Definitely.
In fact, I've even had job opportunities posted up on my Facebook, and I'm not in that field. So they're definitely available in Newfoundland.
Yes, you can do a biology minor. Yeah.
So, like I said before, the recording will be available later today. Um, so, thank you to everybody that asked a question. Huge thank you to Kathy and Stephen for sticking around nearly until 12:30 to answer these questions. I really appreciate it. I'm sure all of these 50 students that I counted at the max really appreciate that as well.
I actually didn't think there would be this many questions. So this is refreshing, actually.
It's great. Yeah, Steve and I were kind of wondering if we'd be sitting here kind of talking to ourselves. This was fantastic.
I had some questions written up, but luckily I didn't have to use those because they weren't good questions. But thank you so much for everybody. And I'll see you later.
Okay, thank you, Carter. See you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.